After the meeting on financing Polish defence based from profits generated by the National Bank of Poland, the head of the President's office announced that President Nawrocki had presented the government with a draft bill on the Polish 0% safe. It is clear from these assumptions that we were able to do this today at virtually no cost, hence a Polish 0% safe. With wise management of the National Bank of Poland's reserves and without depleting them, we are able to generate approximately 200 billion zloty. The presidential bill on the Polish 0% safe provides for the creation of a Polish Defence Investment Fund, which would manage funds from the National Bank of Poland. Thanks to the National Bank of Poland's forward-looking, prudent and accurate policy in recent years, it is now possible to implement a project that will provide tens of billions of zlotys annually over the next few years to the Polish government to finance a rapid construction of a strong Polish army. This is possible because the National Bank of Poland has earned and accumulated sufficient funds for this purpose. Tomorrow I will present the details to all interested parties. According to the presidential bill, the Defence Investment Fund could issue bonds and take out loans without widening the budget gap. The amount of gold will not decrease and the value of foreign exchange reserves will be reduced, so this is a safe solution. All this without physically selling the gold accumulated in the National Bank of Poland and disposing of Polish foreign exchange reserves. To redirect them to this Polish Defence Investment Fund so that this money goes to the Polish army in the broadest sense of the word, but also so that it does not go anywhere else, so that regardless of who governs Poland, this money is secured. The head of the President's office also spoke about a loan for nearly half a century which Tusk government wants to take from Brussels, which is dominated by Berlin. The costs of this loan have not been calculated by me or the President's office, but by an independent expert. I think it is a chief economist of one of the commercial banks with German capital, who calculated that by 2070, the cost of the European safe, and here's the thing, will be practically double what we will receive from the EU, which means that if we are talking about 43.7 billion euros, we will actually have to pay back twice as much. And what does Polish Prime Minister Tusk say about this? He talks all day about his plan B in case the president vetoes the government's plan for a multi-year loan from Brussels. Because Donald Tusk spent the whole day assuring everyone that he would borrow in Brussels anyway. He said so before the meeting with the Polish president and after the meeting. I want to assure everyone, especially those who are waiting for this money in dozens of cities in Poland, in hundreds of workplaces, that whatever the President and the CEO have come up with, we will find a way to get this money to the Polish people. I will do everything I can to ensure that we achieve this goal one way or another. In the event of such an unlawful conclusion of this agreement, it will not only be a reason for legal accountability of those who conclude this agreement, but also for compliance with this agreement in the future. Let our European contractors who are trying to force these unfavourable solutions on Poland know that Poland will not feel bound by the provisions of this agreement in the future. We asked about the financing of the modernisation of the Polish army. Representatives of the current government, without change, are in favour of borrowing money from Brussels as soon as possible and taking funds from the National Bank of Poland. The government wants to take both, because if you can have one safe or two safes, you have to take two. Instead of arguing and debating today about whether Brussels is good or bad, let's just take this money and invest it in the Polish arms industry. Is that really so difficult to understand? This is not about defence, it's not about armaments, it's not about the security of Poles. It is about conditionality. It is about our independence from being tied to Ursula von der Leyen's chain, so that she can block our money at her whim, because it is our loan, and thus lead to a situation where there are no deliveries of military equipment, and put pressure on Poles when they make a political decision that Brussels does not like. There are still many questions surrounding the EU's safe loan, starting with the conditionality mechanism, which could allow Brussels to suspend the loan in instalments, for example, due to alleged violations of the so-called rule of law, or in short, on a whim. The European Union, Brussels, Berlin and Paris are gaining the ability to influence directly the policies of these countries, which has been a very clear goal of German policy for some time now. Germany says, Europe is us, the European economy is Germany. What is good for the German economy is good for Europe. We disagree with this, but Prime Minister Donald Tusk shares Chancellor Merz's view. Who the EU loan is actually supposed to help can be seen in the results of one of Germany's largest arms companies, Rheinmetall, which fell sharply the day after President Nawrocki and the President of the National Bank of Poland announced the idea of a Polish 0% safe.
The Swedish royal couple began a 3-day visit to Poland. The King of Sweden, Carl XVI, and his wife Queen Sylvia met with Polish President Karol Nawrocki and First Lady Marta Nawrocka. After plenary talks were held at the presidential palace, both leaders took part in a meeting with the media. The royal couple is accompanied not only by Swedish government ministers, but also by business people in order to strengthen the development of Polish-Swedish economic relations. I am also very pleased with the economic cooperation, and I thanked His Majesty for that. 700 Swedish companies, ladies and gentlemen, are investing in Poland. Trade between Poland and Sweden is growing every year. Poland has been invited to the G20 summit and is the 6th largest economy in the European Union. Sweden has also been developing excellently for decades, which shows the great technological and economic potential between our countries. Let me just remind you that mutual trade is growing steadily, reaching 14.5 billion euros in 2024, hence the visit of Swedish entrepreneurs to Poland. Poland and Sweden are connected by many ties, including friendship and cooperation. Over 100,000 Poles contribute to the development of Swedish society every day. Poland is Sweden's 8th largest trading partner. More than 700 companies invest in Poland, but the number of Polish companies investing in Sweden is constantly growing. The involvement of Swedish industry is also evident during this official visit, as the largest delegation of entrepreneurs to date has come with us. Polish President Karol Nawrocki said he had informally invited Sweden to join the Bucharest Nine. Nawrocki said a formal invitation would be made at a Bucharest summit in May. The Bucharest Nine, or B9, is made up of Eastern Flank NATO and EU members: Bulgaria, Romania, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Poland, Hungary, Czech Republic, and Slovakia. In the coming days, the royal couple will also visit the Museum of the Second World War in Gdańsk. This week's state visit to Poland by the Swedish King and Queen is the first since 2011 and the first since Sweden joined the NATO alliance in 2023.
Another night of powerful explosions in Tehran. American and Israeli air forces again struck military targets in western Iran, primarily installations and facilities belonging to the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. The Israeli army has published footage of these attacks. The footage shows hits on military facilities and equipment depots belonging to the Iranian armed forces. However, Washington is announcing an even greater escalation. The Pentagon has announced that today may see the most intense wave of bombing since the start of the operation.
Big mistake by the Iranian regime to start targeting its neighbors right away, exposing who they are and what they're all about, indiscriminate targeting, flailing recklessly at the beginning. I can't say that we anticipated necessarily that's exactly how they would.
Iran's military.
The U.S. command announces strikes aimed primarily at Iran's military infrastructure and missile production capabilities.
The mullahs are desperate and scrambling. Like the terrorist cowards they are, they fire missiles from schools and hospitals, deliberately targeting innocents, because they know their military is being systematically degraded and annihilated. Iran's neighbors, and in some cases, former allies.
According to the Pentagon, Iran has fired the fewest number of rockets in recent hours since the beginning of the conflict. The U.S. command claimed this is the result of the systematic destruction of Iran's military infrastructure.
Last Thursday, we struck and sank an Iranian drone carrier ship, and U.S. CENTCOM continues today to hunt and strike mine-laying vessels and mine storage facilities. This work will continue.
But that doesn't mean Iran has no way to respond to the attacks. There is still ongoing shelling in the region. Iranian rockets have once again fallen on Israel. It is not possible to intercept all incoming rockets. Our goal is to create conditions in which the Iranian people can throw off the yoke of tyranny. Ultimately, they will decide for themselves. However, there is no doubt that through the actions we've taken so far, we are breaking the backbone of this regime, and this is only the beginning. A spontaneous memorial to the American soldiers who died in the first days of the war has been set up in Tel Aviv. The Donald Trump administration argues that intervention in Iran was necessary to stop the Iranian nuclear program. According to the U.S. president, The goal of the operation is to permanently deprive Iran of its possibility to build nuclear weapons, as well as ballistic missiles.
When basically I can see that they will no longer have any capacity whatsoever for a very long period of time of developing weaponry that could be used against the United States.
At the same time, questions arise about the future of power in Tehran. Mojtaba Khamenei, the son of the previous leader, has become Iran's new supreme leader. However, Trump admits he does not expect Iran to change its political course.
I don't want to say that, but I was disappointed because we think it's going to lead to just more of the same problem for the country.
The new authorities in Tehran are not signaling any willingness to talk to Washington. However, more and more questions are being asked about the country's new leadership. Ayatollah Mojtaba Khamenei has not yet appeared in public. The possibility cannot be ruled out that he was injured in one of the attacks and is unable to perform his duties. Representatives of the regime are evasive on this subject.
Well, first of all, it's too soon, for him to make any comment. We are all waiting for his speeches and comments, which would come later on. But I don't think the question of talking with Americans.
One of the countries under attack by Iran is Qatar. Others reserve the right to respond with military force and retaliatory strikes. We believe that all conflicts should be resolved at the negotiating table. However, Qatar is currently under daily attack by the Islamic Republic of Iran as part of this war. Under such conditions, it is difficult to talk about mediation or peaceful dispute resolution. These attacks must end. On the 11th day of the war, neither side is showing any signs of being ready to de-escalate. The Pentagon is announcing further strikes. Iran is announcing further fighting. It seems the only thing that could have an effect is strong and multi-pronged international pressure. But that is precisely where the interests of all the major powers in world politics are colliding.
Donald Trump speaks a language of force to Iran, the only language that the regime understands. This time, the security of oil supplies in the Strait of Hormuz is at stake. We will take out easily destroyable targets that will make it virtually impossible for Iran to ever be built back as a nation again. Death, fire, and fury will rain upon them. But I hope and pray that it does not happen. The American leader made it clear that blocking further the free flow of oil tankers would cause Iran to pay a huge price. If it doesn't, Trump will be forced to increase attacks, potentially even up to 20 times more attacks on Iran, mainly on facilities and places where electricity is produced, and strategic buildings for the economy and for the functioning of the Iranian state. Something has to start breaking that. The first cracks have already appeared. The Ayatollahs have announced that they will partially unblock the strait, and Tehran has set a condition for countries that want to send their tankers regularly: the expulsion of the Israeli and US ambassadors from their countries. Iran's neighbors have not complied.
The strategic partnership not only with the US but also...
We are interested in strategic partnerships not only with the United States but with all countries that support the pursuit of security. Iran regularly fires on us, and every day our energy infrastructure is the target of Iranian attacks. Trump warned Venezuelan dictator Nicolas Maduro to negotiate. He did not listen, and today he is in US custody. The Ayatollahs were also warned, but they did not enter into talks with America, and today their dictatorial rule is faltering. Now, once again, Trump has given them an ultimatum. This is not the first time Donald Trump has shown his decisiveness, that if he says something, he will do it later. He is warning the Ayatollahs that if they block the Strait of Hormuz, there will be dramatic consequences for Iran, and the Ayatollahs know this very well. He is a man who, when he makes an announcement, gives the other side a chance to back down, and if they don't, there will be consequences. This undoubtedly has a slight calming effect on the situation around the Strait of Hormuz. The Strait of Hormuz is a strategic location on the Middle East's map. It is a window to the world for major oil producers. Iraq, Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates transport their goods mainly to Asia, but also to Europe. The Strait of Hormuz is a crucial sea route. If we look at oil exports from the Persian Gulf, the strait is the only shipping route that allows large tankers to transport oil outside the Persian Gulf. After Donald Trump announced that he might crack down even harder on the Ayatollah regime, there were also rumors that the Americans were ready to take control of the Strait of Hormuz. The markets reacted with a drop in oil prices from over $100 to just over $80 a barrel. The instruments at the disposal of the United States to lower oil prices, which is already happening, include not only the unblocking of the Strait of Hormuz, but also the release of strategic reserves and a declaration by OPEC, the countries that produce the most oil, that they will increase production. In short, it is a little too early to panic. It is precisely the outbreak of panic, including on the oil markets, that the Iranian dictatorship depends. However, the Americans are not intimidated. Donald Trump suggested that the war, which has been going on for 2 weeks, may soon end. Trump's tough stance is causing the Ayatollah's regime to crumble.